Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Zayin Amud Beis, 9 lines from the top. Our Mishnah on Daf Mem Hey explained that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that when a person is sleeping on the onset of Shabbos, he's kind of shvisa. And the Gemara then says, so too when it comes to a kli hefker, that a kli hefker also then acquires shvisa and only has 2,000 amos in all directions from the onset of Shabbos. What about the kli that belongs to a Gentile, to a goy? Says the Gemara, Om Rav Yehuda Mashmuel, Cheftzei Nochri Ein Koinin Shvisa. The object of a goy does not koine shvisa. Leman, according to who does this follow? Ileima l'Rabbanon. If you're going to say it's like the opinion of the Rabbanon, ask the Gemara Pshita. Hashta cheftzei hefker deleslu bailim ein koinin shvisa. That which the Rabbanon said that a object that is ownerless is not koinin shvisa. Then hecheftzei ha'anochri di'islei bailim miboy. Certainly an object that belongs to a Gentile who himself does not have the isurim and the halachos of Shabbos. Certainly, the object that belongs to the Gentile will not be acquiring shvisa and not be limited to 2,000 amos in all directions. Rather, you must say, as according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who does say that hefker chayfetz is yes koine shvisa. V'kamash malan eimer da'om Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri koinin shvisa. Hani mili cheftzei hefker delesle bailim. When is it that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that an object is koine shvisa? That is an object that is ownerless. Aval cheftzei hanochri di'islei bailim loy. But he does not say that an object that belongs to a Gentile will acquire shvisa. So now we found a Tana that explains the opinion of Shmuel. Again, Shmuel says the object of a nochri is not koine shvisa. And the Gemara then says, certainly that's true according to the Rabbanon, there wouldn't be a chiddush. Because after all, the Rabbanon, they say that even a hefker object is not koine shvisa. Certainly, an object that belongs to a Gentile will not be koine shvisa. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is the chiddush, that even though Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri states that an object that is ownerless does acquire shvisa, but he makes the chiluk and says, but an object that is owned by a goy does not acquire shvisa. Ask the Gemara, Meisvei, with the following challenge. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Hashayel kli min hanochri b'yamtiv. A person who borrows an object from a Gentile on Yamtiv. V'chein hamashil lo lanochri kli be'erev Yamtiv. V'echziu lo b'yamtiv. Or he lends a kli to a Gentile before Yamtiv and he gets it back on Yamtiv. We're talking about a kli on Yamtiv because on Yamtiv there's no prohibition of hoitzah, and therefore one could carry on Yamtiv as opposed to Shabbos. The Brisa goes on to say that objects and their oitzoros, even from hefker, they are shoives toichat chum. They have a tchum. Yesh lohem alpayim am lekol ruach. They can only be taken 2,000 amos in all directions. The Brisa concludes v'nachi shehevi lo peiros michutz letchum. A Gentile who brings fruit from outside of the Techum, you cannot then take them out from their place more than Daled Amos. So we see from here clearly that they do have a Techum, the object of a Nochri. So if you want to say that according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, the object of a Nochri is yes, koine shvisa, then we can explain this brisa. Homani, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Then we found that the Tana is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, because according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, if we're suggesting that an object from a Gentile is koine shvisa, then we understand this brisa. Eliyamris kisov Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri cheftzei hanochi ein koinin shvisa. But if you want to suggest, like you said before, that even Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that an object of a Gentile is not koine shvisa, the Homani, who is this brisa then going to be authored by? Which opinion? Lo Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri v'lo Rabboni. It won't go like either one. Answers the Gemara, La'olam kesov Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri cheftzei hanochim is koine shvisa. Really, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that an object by a goy does koine shvisa. Ushmuel da'amar k'Rabbanan. That which Shmuel said in the beginning of our sugya, that an object of Anochi is not koine shvisa, that's according to the Rabbanan. The Gemara said, but according to the Rabbanan, there would be no chiddush, because they even say an object that's ownerless is not koine shvisa, then kol shekain, the object of a goy. So says the Gemara, v'dekamis l'Rabbanan pshita, that which you said according to the Rabbanan, that would be straightforward. We wouldn't need to teach that if this is the shita of the Rabbanan, that a object of Anochi is not koine shvisa. No, Ma'u the same, there's a chiddush. You might think to say Gezeira Bailim the Nochrim or to Bailim the Yisrael. I might think to say that a Gezeira was made for the object of a Nochrim Otu, because of the object of Yisrael. Because we want to make sure that a person does not mistakenly think there's no Tchum when it comes to the Bailim of a Yisrael. So they didn't make a distinction and said even the object that belongs to a Nochri will also then be Koine Shvisa. That might be the Havamina. Kamash Malan, Shmuel comes to teach us that the Rabbanan say no, there's no such Gzeira. The Gemara now brings in a different opinion who argues on Shmuel. V'Rab Chia bar Avin Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Chetzei Nochri Koinin Shvisa. That indeed the objects of a Nochri do koine shvisa. Gezeira bailim de Nochrim otu bailim de Yisrael. Because we do make this gezeira of bailim de Nochrim otu bailim de Yisrael. In other words, this opinion of Rabbi Yochanan is choilek on Shmuel and says that indeed the Rabbanan do say that you are koine shvisa. Even the Rabbanan agree that the object of a Nochri is koine shvisa because of this gezeira. The Gemara now brings the following incident. Hanu dichrei de'asu lemavrachta. There were rams that were brought by Gentiles from the place called Mavrachta. So the Gentiles brought these rams. Sharelu Rava lebnei Mechuza lemizban minayu. Rava permitted the people of the city of Mechuza to buy these rams. In other words, it was Yontif, and in a way to then purchase them as not to then suggest the exact price and to do it in a way of heter, he permitted them to do so even though these rams were brought from a place called Mavrachta, which was beyond the Techum. Omar le Ravina le Rave. So Ravina says to Rava, how can you permit the Bnei Mechuza to buy these rams? Hare, they came from beyond the Techum. Are you going to say that since these rams belong to Gentiles, it's chefsei nachrim, they're not koine shvisa, and therefore there's no problem of techum? We know when there's a machlokes in Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan, we pass on Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says that a chefsei nachri is yes koine shvisa. Rabbi Chia bar Avin Rabbi Yochanan chefsei nachri koine shvisa. Gezeira bailim de nachri otu bailim de Yisrael. So how can you, Rava, permit the Bnei Mechuza to purchase these rams on Yom Tif for Yom Tif purposes? They came from beyond the Techum. Rava was chayzer and he said, Lizavnu libnei mavrachta dekulu mavrachta lidhu kedal amos damya. It's permissible for the people of Mavrachta to go ahead and purchase these rams, even though really they're beyond the Tchum, and therefore normally would only have Daled Amos. But since we learned earlier that when indeed an object is brought out by the Gentile, that was speaking about in the Mishnah, that they took a Bar Yisrael against his volition, it was talking about, and they brought him outside of his city, as Tchum, and they put him inside of a walled area. Then that walled area has considered to be all one big Dalet Amos area. In other words, you can freely walk within that area. So too over here. These rams, although they've been taken outside the Tchum, and you would say they only had Dalet Amos, but since they were within a walled area for the people of Avrachta, you could go ahead and move them anywhere within those areas that are encircled by walls, and therefore you can go ahead and purchase them on Yontif.